Xavier Worthy has a dislocated shoulder and he's getting a second opinion. What will he be back for and when? Today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome in, Chiefs Kingdom. Thanks for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. We appreciate you, and you everydayers are the reason that we get this done. So become one of them yourselves. Get subscribed here on YouTube and everywhere else. We have a ton to go over. Thanks for being here along this ride. I know it's been a kind of a tough weekend, but we very much appreciate you. And you can find us here 5 days a week. We are the original Locked On Chiefs team. There's never been another one. This is Chris Clark from KC Chiefs Corner. I'm Ryan Tracy from NFL 33, RGR Football, and Rogue Analytics. We're going to run it down for you. News Sunday came out that Xavier Worthy had a dislocated shoulder. We'll go over some of the details there. Then we're going to have to come back, and we're going to talk about, are there fixes in-house? What can they do in the meantime without Xavier on the field? And does it get to the point that they have to make a move? That's coming up later in the show, but we start. I theorized that it looked like from the exam on the sideline that it could be an AC strain on a separated shoulder. Unfortunately, it's come back that's a little bit farther along than that. A dislocation is the next level up from a mild separation or AC strain. It means that there could be some ligamentous damage that needs to be repaired surgically. If that's the case, it's a much longer prognosis. If it's a dislocation that gets reduced and put back in there, you could see a timeline in the 6-weekish range. None of us know what that is, and that's why the second opinion is so important. I am actually a little bit concerned by the fact you have to go get a second opinion. How did you take the news today?
I mean, it's positive that there's hope that he can come back. Ian Rappaport specifically said that it's, they're optimistic that he can come back. That tells me that, they think that maybe it's probably the lesser option and surgery isn't going to be required. The problem is twofold, though. Surgery at some point is likely to be required, regardless of whether or not it happens immediately or if it happens after the season. But secondarily, his risk of re-injury is skyrockets this season. And if it happens again during the season, he will be out the rest of the year.
Yeah, that was definitely not something in a weekend state that if you sustained a similar injury, similar motion, that you would be able to come back from. He will be braced up regardless. So you're going to see something on his, I believe it's right shoulder, down out from the shoulder pads, likely going to be a two-way stirrup that prevents extension and prevents external rotation. Those are the two things that you want to make sure that you avoid. I went back and I looked at the film, and as he falls, it looks like the arm comes up pretty radically, and I think that's a force of the blow. The rotation of it being back there, when it comes back down, I'm hopeful that it reduced itself and it was back in there. They did a pretty good check on him, but I didn't see them forcibly reduce the shoulder and get it back into socket. So being something that's quick like that, I hope that the actual motion of his body in the injury actually put that back together, and we can cross our fingers. That said, it's still a very dangerous thing.
Yeah, and he's a young guy, so I think that actually also plays into his favor. If he was, if he's 10 years older, obviously, I think it's a little bit of a different scenario. But I do think that it's possible that maybe they got the best case scenario almost, because I don't think that there was anything that would make you think it was only going to be 2 or 3 weeks. So to me, this was always going to be at least a month injury, if not a month and a half, maybe 2 months. But the question was whether or not he was going to be able to play again this season. It sounds like they think he can play again this season, but there's a pivot on that you have to consider his long-term health. This is a guy that showed up late last season and showed that he can really be a difference maker in this offense, and you don't want to risk his long-term health if he's not going to be able to be the same. And he's obviously not going to be the exact same, because with what he's going to have to wear, the brace he's going to have to wear, he's going to lose some of his ability to go and reach for balls. So if he does play through it, don't be surprised if he drops or isn't able to extend to get some of the things that you would expect him to get.
Yeah, that's true. Especially some of those, the dive for the pylon kind of thing that he's shown some acumen in doing. He's not going to be able to have full extension there. That's going to be a very difficult and exposed injury. Anytime that the arm's away from the body, it's open for re-injury.
Yeah, and you also probably want to change a little bit of how you play. I would be telling him you don't want to be trying to do those types of things. You want to keep yourself healthy, and the only way to keep yourself healthy is to play a little bit restrained, which is not what you want to do in football, but at the same time, that's probably the only way he can play and be able to function the entire season. And I still think that the chances of him having to have surgery after the season are pretty high.
That's true, but that is a recovery timeline that I think you can deal with, even if it does have to be surgically repaired. I think he loses in this scenario. Obviously, he's in a lot of pain. It's going to dull his season whole 9 yards. But the other guy that it hurts a lot, I think, is Patrick Mahomes, because I think he was fit to not just be part of the offense, but be quite a bit of it, especially in the first 6 weeks. He was going to be the focus of the passing game, to let Travis play off of him rather than the opposite. So I think this has sent probably the whole staff back to the drawing board, which, quite frankly, after the other week, they need to be at quite a bit.
Yeah, they do. But I will also say that this staff did make an adjustment. If you go back and look at how that game turned out, Kansas City's offense played a lot better in the second half when they were able to start making some adjustments. They weren't able to adjust on the fly. Obviously, Xavier Worthy going out, they weren't able to adjust the next series, but they did get it done, and they were able to start scoring points in the second half, which got them back in the game and got it to where it was a close game. It should have been something that wasn't even necessarily that close. So I do think that there's some positives there. I think that that's something that they're going to have to build on going forward, obviously. But let's look at when they came back from, well, actually, to end the second quarter, they went field goal. Then in the third quarter, touchdown, field goal. That offense is something that will get it done. Obviously, you want to put points on the board. You want to score touchdowns. I get that. But they were able to make adjustments. It just was not enough, and they weren't able to be successful and get the touchdowns when they needed to. They were able to get in field goal range. And I will still say this because I don't think we said it enough on the post-game show. Dave Toub needs his flowers, because that fire drill to get the touch or to get the field goal right before half was phenomenal.
Yeah, that was a nice play and a good unit distribution. I think it was slightly taken away from by the fact that you miss an extra point.
Yep.
But I feel that's more on the kicker specifically than the whole unit. So you have a very good point. Getting that field goal unit in there set and snapped and done was really impressive. And that's not just to him, but to every player that's on that unit.
Yep.
So there's positives. Now, there's fixes out there too. They're going to have to fix some of that scheduling so they can down the ball a little bit more efficiently, but you have to fix what's at wide receiver as well. How do they adjust? That's coming up next. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app that's actually paying off for making you right. If and when I make decisions every day on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in, and it can for you as well. With football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you're in business. You can turn those into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. I am going to take Mahomes to have to do more work, and I'm still going to take the more coming up this week. We'll find out what that line is, and we'll have more for you. But you can download it and get to it yourself by downloading the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL, and you'll get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play at Prize Picks. It's right. It's good to be right. Hey, Chiefs fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app from the App Store or the Google Play Store right now and start earning cash at the pump right now today. Use my limited time promo Touchdown and get up to an extra 25 cents off per gallon on your first fill up right now. You could make up to $300 a year just by buying the gas that you already have to buy. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can get cash out anytime from your bank account, PayPal, even a gift card, or Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer pass you by. Download the free Upside app right now using a limited time promo code Touchdown for a limited time 25 cents per gallon bonus. That's promo code Touchdown. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Folks, make sure that you check out KC Chiefs Corner, NFL 33, and rgrfootball.com. We would appreciate it. We have a lot to talk about, and we'll cover it all, but it comes down to gut instinct. And the way that they had to adjust in that game on the fly to Xavier is much different than what they're going to have to do coming up. To have two of your top three out already, I think is precarious at best. And I think you said it before we started recording today. I think you said it best, what the concern is with both of them already off the field.
Yeah. Is Mahomes ever going to get a chance to play one game with all three of his top wide receivers, period? Like, he hasn't yet. It's either been Worthy and Rice or Worthy and Brown, and that's all. You haven't had a chance to have all three wide receivers on the field at the same time. And while it sounds like Worthy can be back this year, and I'm hopeful for that, you still have concerns. Is Brown going to be available by the time Worthy is able to come back? And we know Rice is out until week 7, so
it's difficult to
be
project.
A big question.
Yeah, that he's going to get all three. I am going to lean towards the positive.
Yeah, the other issue that I have with it, though, is you have to figure that what they're going to have to do in-house and how they're going to have to make adjustments is going to heavily involve using Hollywood Brown, which is almost what you don't want to do because of his injury history.
Yeah, volume is scary when you're talking about Hollywood, right? Although, to his credit, after a very rough start the other night, to pick up that slack and get targeted 16 times and make the majority of those grabs, I feel slightly better about it as long as he's smart about contact. Now, that's really the key. So I'm not running 12-yard curls where the safety can just tee off on him in the middle of the field. I'm not running things that run him into a situation where, especially cross action, as we just saw, that if your timing is not right, that you run into other players. Like, I think that they have to be a little bit more selective about the concepts that they have Hollywood run because you have younger bodies. And the number one thing that I think is going to help fix this situation is the fact that we should see Jalen Royals at practice this week. He should be ready to go for the second game, but there's no guarantee.
We hope. I don't know. He didn't practice at all last week. Could he play this week? Yeah, it's possible he plays this week. If he plays this week, that's going to help everything, because while he is a rookie, I do think that they saw enough in training camp to figure out that they can get him a package that will help this offense, and he can be successful helping this offense. He doesn't have to do what Xavier Worthy did last year, because you still have Hollywood Brown. You still have, you still have Tyquan Thornton. You still have Juju Smith-Schuster. You still have some weapons. Whereas when Kansas City lost Rice, they didn't really have anything. They had to go out and get somebody. Now, maybe, and we'll talk about this in the next segment, maybe they have to still make a move. But the reality is that you at least still have some people that can step in. You have guys that have done it in the NFL to an extent. Juju looks rejuvenated and looks a lot better than I ever expected he was going to coming into the offseason. And the question is, can you get more from a guy like Tyquan Thornton than we've seen so far? But the other question, and the bigger one, is what can you get out of a guy like Jason Brownlee, who's going to be on this roster and doesn't really fit what the Chiefs do at the wide receiver position near as much as he is a contested ball type catcher, and Mahomes generally hasn't done that.
I won't say that he has to emulate another quarterback, but it's worth giving Bo Nix a call, because if you saw Cortland Sutton's touchdown today, that is the type of route Jason Brownlee can run very, very well, win at the catch point in the end zone, and call it a day. I just know that there's reluctance on both the quarterback and the head coach's part to put that into action. And I think this may be a point where you have to roll that dice a little bit more. You have to take more of those risks. Because, as you said, Brownlee's already on this roster. You have him and Nico in reserve. You are starting 3 for the next, at least, in my opinion, 3 to 4 weeks is Hollywood, Juju, and Tyquan. Whereas Brownlee and Nico Remigio have to be used for some relief, so you're not running those 3 on every single route. But that is a really shifting group. You can do things that you wanted to do in this offense with Hollywood, Juju, and Tyquan. I think that trio, while not as good as the original trio, can still do the same concepts, can still run the same route combinations. You bring in Brownlee and Nico Remigio, now things change. And I don't think it's for sale the route combinations and the concepts that you can attack with those two on the field.
I know we're talking mainly wide receivers, but I'll also throw in the fact that I think when you have time to game plan, you can also figure in that you're going to be using the tight ends a little bit more. Doesn't have to be just Travis Kelce. You can use Big Bob. You can use Brashard Smith in the running back role, coming out of the backfield, trying to catch passes. I'm not saying it's going to be the same thing. I'm just saying you have the ability to shift what you're going to do as an offense to focus on the players that you do have and focus on what you have available to you. And I do think that there are ways to have this passing game be lethal still, and it's just going to be a little bit of a shift of who you're going to be having running what.
Yeah, there's certainly steps that you can take right now to implement to look like yourself. But do they have to make a move? In my opinion, it is absolutely mandatory. There will be at least one followed by a follow-up, but I think they have to do one right now as soon as they find out, and we'll talk about that next. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering for your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets is a hassle. Between queues, login screens, prices jumping at checkout, it's really frustrating, and that's why I use Game Time, the app that gives you the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered every time at the best price, plus all the fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pull up Game Time anytime to get a couple of taps. I get amazing deals. I get to see where my seat is. I get to see my favorite NFL games for as low as $100. You can too. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, that's promo code LOCKEDONFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Lots to be said and thought here. We're going to be with you all week like we always are. Check out the other outlets as well. But it comes down to this. No matter what happens with this second opinion, and I'm glad that he's trying to get it, at a minimum, from the research, and for those of you who don't recall, not only have we been doing this show for 9 years now covering this team, I'm a trained exercise physiologist and strength and conditioning coach, and I've worked with athletes in and out of both college football and the league for over 20 years. In my experience, and I'm not an athletic trainer or a physician, the minimum for an injury like this is at least a few weeks. I would say a minimum of 4, especially given his build. It could go well beyond that. But if it's going to be 4 weeks and you're already down your number 2 receiver, I think they have to make the move to IR. Unless it just comes back that the MRI was wrong, it wasn't dislocated, and they don't need a repair, and it was just absolutely, this report is inaccurate. If it is accurate, I think they have to put him IR, designated return, in a few weeks. And I think they do have to then fill that roster spot with another weapon. Maybe, to your point, it should be other than wide receiver. There are some higher profile veterans that are free agents right now that want it to be them. But what would you like to see them do?
Well, I know that there's a ton of people online and a ton of people on X talking about go out and get Tyreek Hill. You saw what happened to the Miami Dolphins today. Horrible situation, and Hill is not happy, and I get it because that is a horrible situation to be in. Tua played horribly in that game, but the reality is you have $2.5 million in cap space. So unless the Miami Dolphins are willing to do a fire sale and help out somebody in their own conference, that's probably not going to happen. I can't imagine that Hill would be coming back to Kansas City. Sorry to douse that fire with cold water. I just don't see it. So I don't know. I think they have to make a move. I don't know exactly what that move is going to be. I do agree that I think he's going to end up on IR. I don't think there's any real choice on that. I don't think you can allow him to be on the roster if he's not going to be able to play for, even if you think that the best case scenario is 3 weeks, I would still put him on IR. You give him an extra week at that point, which is better than trying to rush him back. I understand you want him to play, and I get that, but If you think best case scenario is that he's out 3 weeks, you put him on IR and you let him sit for 4. And, then at that point you are in a situation where he comes back. Maybe if it's just 4 weeks, he comes back the week before Rashee Rice or a couple weeks before Rashee Rice at that point, and maybe that will help you. But the reality is you're going to have to make some kind of move on the roster. I don't know that it's going to end up being a wide receiver because we didn't expect them to keep 7 to begin with. So that position could go elsewhere, and they could be just focused on the guys that they have.
That 7 became 5 real quick with the suspension and this injury, right? So I think it's 50-50 whether it could be a wide receiver. As we said, there are a couple of veterans out there that might be able to fit the bill that you don't have to trade for. But like you said, there's only 2.3 in cap space right now. So in my mind, that would require reworking someone's deal to get cap relief. I don't know how much we could even get to it. That I don't know if you've looked at it yet, but just off the top of my head, you could probably get $6 or $7 million to spend on somebody if you had to, if it was a trade situation or a free agent that you had to bring in that you still had to pay like more than $2-3 million, like veteran kind of deal. But that doesn't leave you much room. It's much more plausible for you to find another tight end or another pass catching back, possibly. We know that Elijah Mitchell is on the roster, yet he was not active in Brazil. It was the rookie Smith. So I do think that there's room to maneuver there as well. Do you have a preference? Do you have an idea of what could be done?
I agree. I think that they're going to have to probably look on the outside, but the reality is how quickly you're going to be able to get somebody in and working towards playing. You can go out and try to sign a veteran and get them in, but they're not going to be able to really help you against the Eagles this week. That's the reality. I mean, yeah, you could bring in a guy. I know some people are going to say, bring in McCole Hardman.
Yeah.
How much is that really going to help you?
I don't know, but that's exactly my reaction. Like, he could probably walk in and play.
And maybe they do that, but the reality is he doesn't. He's going to give you depth, but I don't think you're going to play him above any of the guys you already have on the roster. Maybe Jason Brownlee, but that would be about it. And he hasn't shown that he has the ability to really separate. And I don't mean separate in routes. I mean just separate himself from the other receivers on the roster. Like, there's a reason he continues to get cut from this team and from other teams.
Well, and he certainly has proven that he has 9 lives, right? He might have 9 red lives. And if they do bring him back, and this is why I wanted to bring him up, because of the mental fit, it would certainly tell you what they think of not only Remigio and Brownlee, but it would give you an idea of Tyquan Thornton too. If they think Tyquan can do all the things that they need him to do in the vertical game, and yet they still bring in Hardman, that's saying something else. And we'll have to decipher that if that's what happens. I right now am leaning against it, but I could see them wanting that comfort factor of another veteran who knows the offense.
I don't disagree with you, but the thing that I'm really going to be curious about is why wasn't this move already done? Yeah. Because the Chiefs have known since Saturday what was going on with Xavier Worthy. I understand that you don't have to do anything or whatever, but if you're going to bring in Hardman, you want him. If you're going to bring in any player,
there.
They should already have it done.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a matter of, showing up to work on Monday and having 4 or 5 guys in for a tryout. You should have had the tryout on Sunday at the worst. And the other reality is you probably should have had a tryout on Saturday, knowing the fact that the likely scenario was you're going to lose Worthy at minimum for a month. So he's probably going to go on IR. So have the tryout, get players in as soon as you possibly can, and then make a decision.
That's my thought as well. Now, when we next speak to you, we will have gotten that information. There's still more football to be played tonight. We'll find out about that. You never know what could happen. There could be trades out there. I don't see how they do that without the other maneuvers that they have to do for the cap. So we will start looking at what is a possibility, as well as filling in on the rest of the roster and how they move forward after what was a significant letdown in Brazil. But we'd like your feedback. Would you like to see McCole Hardman back? Would you like someone else like Tyreek Hill? Is that a plus in your mind? Because I'm not certain that it is right now. Leave your comments down below here on YouTube. Hit us on X. We would certainly appreciate, but make sure no matter what, that you are subscribed and with us as we go through this week and get ready for game number 2 on all the platforms every day, just like we do here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us today. We'll talk to you tomorrow.